It's the art of deflection coming from former President Obama, as well as his friends who are still in Congress today, and Senator Warner and Congressman Jim Himes, really all basically saying that exact same statement, which doesn't actually address the issue that was revealed in great detail in the over 100 documents that we released last week, and the documents that we will be releasing later this week that point to the undeniable fact that you laid out in your introduction to this segment, is that the intelligence community had one assessment, that Russia did not have the intent or capability to try to impact the outcome of the U.S. election leading up to Election Day.
The story about this scumbag, and he is a scumbag pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein, he's dead now, but for 20 years, you had Obama and George W. Bush's Department of Justice go easy on this guy. They didn't fully investigate the case. They didn't show any curiosity about the case. And now Donald J. Trump is asking his Department of Justice to show full transparency.
Barack Obama stepped back into the spotlight with that familiar smooth charm. However, J.D. Vance and Tulsi Gabbard did not hold back. They came in sharp, direct, and completely unapologetic, picking apart his record piece by piece. This wasn't a normal debate. The crowd was taken aback, and it felt more like a complete takedown.
And not Barack Obama and George W. Bush. If you want to criticize the people who aren't showing full transparency, you ought to go after the administrations that went easy on Jeffrey Epstein, the administrations that concealed this case for 20 years, and the administrations that failed to show full transparency. Donald J. Trump, I'm telling you, he's got nothing to hide. His administration has got nothing to hide, and that's why he's...
Tulsi Gabbard from Hawaii and J.D. Vance, the sharp-tongued Rust Belt outsider, clashed with Barack Obama in a showdown that felt more like a demolition derby than a debate. Direct, unfiltered shots at his policies, his promises, and the meticulously polished legacy he built were delivered with intense precision, not polite handshakes or small talk.
And trust in the integrity of our democratic republic, which has been undermined by President Obama through his direction of this manufactured fake intelligence document, knowing that it was filled with lies and knowing that it would and could then be used for all of the actions that came.
Imagine the camera slowly focusing on Obama as he delivers one of his smooth speeches. The charm was amplified with that renowned calm smile. The first black president who rose to international fame. Clapping like he could do no wrong, the crowd. He passed the Affordable Care Act to expand health care. After the crash in 2008, he contributed to stabilizing the economy. He advocated for plans to safeguard the planet. His foreign policy earned major praise. Awards, headlines, and news anchors celebrating him everywhere. Impressive, right?
Vice President who gave an interview to the Gateway Pundit and said as follows, SOT 15.
Well, I think the only thing the far left really responds to is power. The thing that they're actually going to be responsive to is the recognition that there are consequences on the other side. If they get off scot-free, if they're never investigated, if they're never prosecuted when they violated the law, then they're just going to come back and do the exact same thing again. And there are a few different ways, of course. So it's the big tech companies that were censoring conservatives. They've got to know that's not going to be allowed, and there are going to be consequences for it. The banks, the president is really preoccupied with this, and rightfully so. And of course, you've got to pay the lawfare back in kind. You've got to say to the Comeys and the Brennans of the world, of course, you got to follow the law. You can only prosecute people when they actually broke the law, but we know that a lot of...
Although his resume appears to be flawless on the surface, there are actual flaws, contradictions, errors, and subtle compromises that do not always make the news. Tulsi and J.D. step in at that point. They come armed with sharp facts, strong conviction, and perfect timing, ready to tear through the polished image piece by piece.
Of our democratic republic, of our elections, is of paramount importance to the American people. Knowing what had occurred previously, the things, this Russia hoax thing that was called a conspiracy, I wanted to get to the bottom of the truth of what actually happened here. This was obviously important to President Trump, but again, is an issue of importance to every single American in this country and the future of our country as a republic. So shortly after coming into this position as Director of National Intelligence, I formed a special team to investigate this issue. I got to tell you, it wasn't easy. There were a lot of deep state obstacles that exist still within the intelligence.
She opens with a steady, piercing look and speaks with careful precision, using her military background as real authority. She goes straight at Obama's foreign policy. Libya, Syria, drone strikes. She portrays them as risky moves for which civilians paid the price, rather than noble missions. The promise of peace and democracy was replaced with bombs, secret operations, and complicated alliances. She then turns to issues at home with the same calm intensity. Corporate bailouts that help big companies while everyday families were left wondering when recovery would finally reach them. Like falling dominoes, each point challenges policies that were once hailed as heroic and portrays them as favors of the powerful. It's not about me. It's a statement of principle delivered as an unwavering critique.
He had thoughts in his head, and what a contrast that is to Kamala Harris, who just repeats slogan after slogan after slogan. I got to be honest with you, I am offended. Not as a person running to be your vice president, but as a fellow citizen. I am offended that a person who is so substanceless as Kamala Harris dares to think that she could be the president of the United States. It is a disgrace.
With steady control, she does not need to speak up. Her message is steady and crystal clear. Then J.D. Vance steps in with Rust Belt grit, dropping the polished talk and sharing raw stories about broken promises and towns left behind. Together they flip the narrative, challenging Obama's global strategies from two very different angles. J.D. grounds it in working-class frustration, making it personal and real. Under the harsh spotlights of the stage, the former president's polished image gradually begins to flake, revealing a far more vulnerable figure.
This are frankly nothing short of historic. Over 100 documents that we released on Friday really detail and provide evidence of how this treasonous conspiracy was directed by President Obama just weeks before he was due to leave office, after President Trump had already gotten elected. This is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an issue that is so serious it should concern every single American, because it has to do with the integrity of our